Charity fears it may have to cut frontline services due to rising wages and increasing energy costs. Forget Me Not Children's Hospice in Huddersfield is one of 500 charities surveyed, which is struggling in multiple ways to keep going. 4 out of 5 charities say demand has increased, but recruiting staff has become extremely difficult. Kathy Killick has this.
It's a place 19-year-old Holly Shaw regards as a sanctuary. The skin condition she's had since birth is acutely painful, but this room at Forget Me Not Children's Hospice helps her tune out and relax. It's just one of many facilities at the hospice, but it's having to look very closely at what it can offer because money has become so tight.
I'm really sad that it's struggling because the hospice does really help me a lot and my family, and it gives me the break that I need when things get tough. I also have a doctor here who is on standby, so if I'm really struggling with my condition, we can call her up and she gives us great advice with medication and things that can help.
Running the hospice is getting more expensive. Heating costs for the hydropool have gone up and labour shortages are making recruitment very tough. The CEO, Lewin Thompson, is having to make some stark choices.
In 30 years that I've worked in the sector, this has been the most difficult climate that I've had to operate in. There are increasing numbers of people that want to use our services, and the pressures around recruiting and retaining staff, wage inflation, cost of energy, additional insurance costs are all making it harder and harder and harder to deliver the services that we want to deliver to families that need them.
About a third of the hospice's running costs come from its charity shops, so they're vital. But they're losing staff to shops that pay more.
Thank you. Bye.
The hospice is going to raise pay by 10% to pay the real living wage. It'll cost £62,000 a year, meaning savings must be made elsewhere.
If we pay people more, then there's less money going towards the care for the children, which is it's really difficult because we need to be able to pay people fairly. But equally, we want to make sure that there is enough money to be able to deliver the care at the hospice.
For Holly and her family, it could mean fewer overnight stays, for example. So they're worried about possible cuts.
Would be very lost if things were to be reduced or anything, because they're always on call for us, you know, so if we ever need them, they're there. If it's not there, I don't know what to do.
Economic woes are hitting most of us, but for charities, the costs hit those who need help most. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Huddersfield.
You can see what a lifeline that hospice is, can't you, for that family? Nicole Sykes is from an organisation which advises charities about economic issues, and she told me that this hospice isn't alone.
It's typical, an overwhelming majority of charities are telling us they're experiencing increased demand right now. That's set against the really difficult backdrop of 3 years of having fundraising challenges for many of them. And now we are reaching a stage where many charities are having to dip into their reserves, their emergency cash. About half of charities telling us that's what they're having to do just to keep the doors open and their running costs going. It's definitely a really challenging time at the minute.
So if wages are up and donations are down, something has to give. Presumably the last thing charities want is to cut frontline care.
Absolutely. We're seeing the vast majority of charities that aren't able to fill their staff gaps at the moment. They're having to put more work onto the existing staff that are there, but it increases burdens on other staff. And it means you have a burnout problem, which means more people leaving. It's really a vicious cycle that a lot of organisations are stuck in. And as you say, if you're struggling with money, but you have to have staff in the building, maybe you go to an agency, maybe you get a member of staff in that way for a temporary period of time. But that way is always more expensive, so you have less money to recruit again. That is a really, really challenging backdrop, sort of a number of vicious cycles taking place, which, yes, has meant that some services are being delayed, some long-term improvements, which could improve care for patients or services to vulnerable people, are being delayed.
So what's the solution here?
Everyone has some part to play in the solution. Obviously, government, where it can provide funding, but not just money, but long-term investment into the sector, into its skills and its fundraising capacities so it can be more sustainable. I think local businesses, if they are finding that they're having a better time than they expected, and we are seeing some optimism in the economy more broadly, more than we expected, if they can be providing volunteers or resources or free space, charities absolutely appreciate that. And of course, all of us, if we can be donating, if we can be giving our time, or if we can be sort of sharing what charities are saying, raising the awareness, that more people hear about the challenges and actually think, could I help as well?